When you think of Napoleon's campaign in Egypt back in 1798, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's this grand, romantic image, right? Of adventure, discovery, and bringing the enlightenment of the French Revolution to the East. But we need to talk about this, because that popular image, it was very, very carefully built.
I mean, just look at this. You've got artists like Gustave Bougin painting these epic scenes of Napoleon rolling into Cairo. And who do you see? You see Egyptians kneeling, celebrating, basically treating the French like their saviors. But let's be real. This was pure fiction. It was propaganda, plain and simple, designed to sell a very specific story back home in France.
And Napoleon himself was a master at spinning this story. He had proclamations printed in Arabic, just like this one, telling everyone that he wasn't a conqueror. No, he was a friend of Islam, an ally who was there to free them from their corrupt rulers, the Mamluks. He was painting himself as a total liberator. So what's the real story here? Was Napoleon this great modernizer bringing progress to Egypt? Or was this whole thing just one of history's most brilliant and brutal PR campaigns to cover up an invasion? To get to the bottom of that, we have to look at Napoleon's propaganda playbook. I mean, the guy was a genius at it. This wasn't just a military invasion, it was a psychological one too.
Now this is where it gets really fascinating. The level of detail in his deception was just incredible. He had his soldiers wear uniforms that looked Ottoman, so they'd seem familiar. His ships flew Ottoman flags to slip past defenses. He even dropped hints that he, Napoleon, might convert to Islam. Every single move was a calculated performance, designed to win people over before a shot was even fired.
He also set up something called the Dīwān. It was this council made up of respected Egyptian leaders. On paper, this looked amazing, like he was giving Egyptians a say in their own government. But here's the catch. Napoleon could veto or just flat out cancel anything they decided. It was the illusion of power, nothing more.
Okay, so that was the performance, the shiny public image. But what was actually happening on the ground for the average Egyptian? Well, that's a whole different story.
Remember those paintings of Egyptians cheering for the French? Well, this number, 5,000, it just shatters that illusion. According to Ottoman records, when Napoleon's army entered the city of Alexandria, they killed about 5,000 people. This wasn't a peaceful welcome. It was a violent, bloody conquest from day one.
And the violence wasn't just on the battlefield. The French army basically stole the country's food, which led to a devastating famine. We have this incredible eyewitness account from an Egyptian chronicler, Abdurrahman al-Jabarti. He wrote about soldiers just taking whatever they wanted, even tiny amounts of grain, leaving people to starve.
And check out this timeline. It shows you just how fast everything went south. In the first 100 days, the French take the food, slap these insane new taxes on people's homes, and basically push the people of Cairo to their absolute limit. So what happens? By October, the whole city explodes in a massive revolt against their so-called liberators.
And this is maybe the most shocking example of the hypocrisy. Remember Napoleon's big promise to respect Islam? Well, during that Cairo revolt, he ordered his cannons to fire on the Al-Azhar Mosque, one of the most sacred sites in the city. Then his soldiers charged into the holy site on horseback, with Qurans being trampled under their horses' hooves.
The French response to the revolt, it was absolutely ruthless. In the crackdown, it's estimated that at least 2,500 Egyptians were killed. Napoleon then had their heads cut off and stuck on pikes all over the city, as a terrifying warning to everyone else.
But here's the thing about Napoleon's strategy. It wasn't just about brute force, about swords and cannons. He was smart. He knew that knowledge, and more importantly, controlling knowledge, was one of the most powerful weapons of all.
You see, he didn't just show up with an army. He brought along what he called a scientific and artistic commission. And get this, it was 167 of France's top minds. We're talking chemists, botanists, artists, the best of the best. And their mission? To study and document every single thing about Egypt. Its history, its people, its resources, everything. Sounds pretty noble, right? A grand quest to advance human knowledge. But you gotta ask yourself, was science really the goal here, or was something else going on? Well, Napoleon's own memoirs kind of give the game away. The guy had these huge ambitions of conquering the entire East. He literally wrote, "I saw myself founding a religion, marching into Asia." See, to conquer a people, you have to understand them first. You need to know their culture, what they have, and most importantly, their weaknesses.
This scientific mission was basically an intelligence-gathering operation for a future empire. So what came out of all this research? This massive 23-volume masterpiece called The Description of Egypt. And it was groundbreaking, for sure. But it also did something really damaging. It framed Egyptians as this backward people who had no clue about their own incredible past. The story it told was that only Europeans, only the French, could truly understand and preserve Egypt's history for them.
And this whole way of thinking, it actually has a name: Orientalism. The brilliant scholar Edward Said pointed his finger right at Napoleon's campaign and the description of Egypt as the birthplace of this idea. The belief that the West is rational and superior, and the East is exotic, irrational, and basically needs saving. It's the perfect intellectual excuse for colonialism.
So, okay, this all happened over 200 years ago. Why are we still talking about it? Why does it still matter? Because it forces us to ask a really important question about how history gets told and, who gets to tell it.
Now get this. A poll from just a couple of years ago found that nearly a third of people in France, and even more in Britain, are still proud of their country's colonial past. So this isn't some ancient history we're digging up. These feelings are very much alive today.
And that pride, it doesn't just come from nowhere. It's the direct result of centuries of learning a very one-sided history, the story of the so-called civilizing mission. The idea that colonialism was this noble project to bring progress and light to backward people.
But what happens when you listen to the other side? Let's go back to that Egyptian chronicler, Al-Jabarti. At first, he totally bought Napoleon's PR and even praised him. But after he saw the famine, the taxes, and the massacre at the mosque, his whole tune changed. For the rest of his life, he just called them the hateful French. His personal journey tells you everything you need to know about the truth behind the myth.
And all of this really leaves us with one final big question to think about. The story of Napoleon in Egypt is a huge reminder that the official version of events is rarely the whole story. It makes you wonder, if history is so often written by the victors, whose stories are we still missing today?